Guess what happened?
What?
I won the lottery. I have been winning for 2 months. $2 here, $2 there, $10. I even won over $100 one time. But I won the lottery. And I got your attention, didn't I? Because you wanted to know the facts. In Toastmasters, we are taught to get your attention. And that is one of the things I want to talk to you about tonight, to make your presentations better. How do you get our attention? How do you pique the interest of your members? One of the first things that you can do is by having a wonderful title. Now I want to ask you, if I'm going to give a speech and I get introduced and the title of my speech is Sharon's Trip to the Beach, are you going to be attentive, or do you think it's just going to be wah, 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 wah? One of the best ways to get our attention is to make us wonder, what exactly is she going to say? What is David going to say? What is Jean going to say? So when you're giving the Toastmaster of the Day your title, don't give your whole speech away. Make it something that the audience goes, I wonder exactly what she's going to say. Another topic of interest is when you give your opening. There's a little formula you can figure out. For your beginning, the opening of your speech, use about 10% of the time allotted for your speech. So if you're going to give a 6-minute speech, give about 6 times 60, 360, give about half a minute to 3/4 of a minute to your introduction. The next thing is to develop a rapport with your audience. Now, how do you do that? When you're giving a presentation, how do you develop a rapport with your audience? The number one way to do that is eye contact. Make sure that you have eye contact with every person in the room if it's a small group. Now, if it's a huge group, there's no way you're going to be able to make eye contact with every single person. But you can present your speech by talking to this side of the room. And then for another point, go to the middle of the room. And then for another point, work this area. But one of the best ways to have rapport with your audience is to look at someone and talk to them. And then with another point, look at someone else. So you must develop rapport with your audience for them to stay attentive. In the opening of your speech, at the very beginning, you must somehow tell your audience what you're going to be talking about. Because audiences will lose attention if they don't know what you're going to say. If you've got an opening, an introduction into your speech that's 5 minutes long, and you've only got 7 minutes to speak about the topic, you haven't left yourself enough time to really discuss the issue at hand. Another way that you can begin your speech is by making a very startling statement, such as, I won the lottery. Or if you're going to be talking about cancer, you can say, there are more people killed every year from cancer than were killed in World War II and Vietnam combined. Starting out with a startling statement will get people's attention. Another thing you can do is arouse their curiosity. For instance, I want to read this one. A speaker could begin a speech by saying, and you have to guess, I enjoy lying around the house all day. I do not care if you ever come home as long as my food is available, because I have fun all by myself. I like to chase my tail and stalk imaginary animals. What am I? What am I?
Cat.
Exactly. So you arouse curiosity in the audience. Now, another way to start your speeches is by to give a little story or an anecdote. For instance, it was a dark and cloudy night, and I was on a date with this boy for the first time. And we went down a road that I had never been on before. Now you're wondering, what's going to happen? But by using your voice and by setting a scene and creating a story, you pique the interest of your audience. Another way to begin your speech is to ask a rhetorical question, such as, how many of you have ever been on a diet? How many of you have ever dressed up for Halloween? By getting the people involved, by getting your audience involved, they're going to wonder where you're going to take your speech. Another excellent way to begin your speech is with a quotation. Now, it can be a quotation from someone in history, it can be a leader, it can be your 4-year-old grandchild. For instance, a speech on leadership could begin, Dwight D. Eisenhower, our 34th President of the United States, once said, "You do not lead people by hitting them over the head. That's assault, not leadership." Another way to begin your speech is, depending on what type of speech it is, you can refer to the occasion. For instance, at the opening of a new school, you can say, 5 years ago they told us that we could never raise the $5 million we needed for our new school. We were told that our children would have to go to the same school that their parents went to and their grandparents went to. But we are standing before you today at the groundbreaking of the new elementary school in this town, and we have each and every one of you to thank. Now, by referencing the occasion, you get everyone to buy into your speech, and they're going to be attentive to you. There are many other techniques that you can use. For instance, humor. I think using humor is always a good way to get everyone's attention and to begin your speech. Audience participation. Also, you can give a demonstration. For instance, if I was going to give a speech on the flag, I may come over here and actually hold the flag up, talk about the flag, and demonstrate, show you, count the stripes, but handle the flag itself. At this time, I'm going to let you ask any questions that you might have about beginning speeches. If you've ever heard one that you thought was especially effective, that really got your attention. Does anybody have any comments about starting speeches? Everybody knows how to start a speech.
Now we do.
Well, I have a comment.
Yes.
Earlier you spoke about how long the intro to your speech should be.
Yes.
That's something that I've struggled with in my previous speeches. So I think that's great to understand the amount of length that should be there. So
Roughly 10% of your time should be for your opening, and 10% for the closing, and then 80% for everything in between. If you can lay it out with those guidelines, then you'll have a well-balanced speech. Any other comments or questions about beginning your speech? Yes, David.
Just as an answer to that, you have the guidelines, but that doesn't mean that you can't violate them, you can't do something different. But you need to do it with a purpose, with a reason.
Exactly.
A very good example was that Toastmasters World Champion in Public Speaking was always done behind a lectern until Michael Arm from South Carolina won in 1978 because he steps out from behind the lectern. And another one was Darren LaCroix in his speech, Ouch. He laid on the stage for 17 seconds. But if you've ever listened to Darren, he'll explain to you what that meant. So as you listen to these things, it doesn't mean that you have to be there. There may be a speech that needs to be 20%, and you may want to make it 1%.
Especially in Toastmasters, when we are introducing each other, it can be shorter, but if you're introducing someone that the audience does not know as well, you might want to give a little bit more time. But also, if you are asked to speak, provide your own introduction. It's very important to do that. I've seen one time where I was facilitating a meeting and the guest speaker sent me his introduction. Well, his introduction was 5 pages long. That wasn't an introduction. So I went through and cut it down, cut it down, and cut it down, and tried to write it up as a true introduction and sent it back to him. Because otherwise I would have been speaking for 10 minutes and then he would not have had as much time to do his presentation. So if you're ever asked to give a speech, be cognizant of giving a good, short introduction. Any other comments? If you ever need help, yes, Katie?
Well, just to latch on to that, and that's one of the things that I've learned over time, if you do a good enough job with the introduction, then you can cut down on how much you need to spend on introducing the topic, so that you're not explaining so much. So I think that's good advice.
And another thing to add on to that is if you're going to speak at a group, if you don't provide them an introduction, they'll give you one.
Yeah.
And it might not be what you expect. They might say something that isn't true, or you didn't know they knew about you, or it might really kind of jar you a little bit. So especially in front of a crowd that you've never spoken before, provide your own introduction. And that should feed into the beginning of your speech. If there's no other comments? Yes, Sue?
I have a question.
Yes.
Tell me once again, because you told me before and I forgot, how many words approximately in a speech for 5 to 7 minutes? Because I have trouble.
Okay. If you're writing your speeches word for word, which I highly recommend, especially for your first 10 speeches, 125 words per minute for men, 150 words per minute for women. We do talk faster. So if you're doing a 5 to 7 minute speech, say 6 minutes times 150, and also have your evaluator write on your evaluation form your exact time, and you'll start to get a feel of if you go longer or shorter, if you need to add more words or take less out, take words out. But 125 words per minute for men, 150 for women. Yes, David, you had a comment? I thought I saw your hand up. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Well, I hope that this has been helpful and that it will give you some tips on making your speeches a little more interesting for your